I would have to go back and look at my complaints because if it isn't in the answers that I had submitted to you, then it did not happen between this time period.
Okay. Do you recall filing 2 complaints on September 26th? What was that?
No, because these are the complaints that are from these are the complaints that are from um everything I took from my account. So it was not on the 26th. It did not happen on the 26th.
Was that what is the date that it occurred?
If it's not listed in the questionnaire you had sent me, so it's not in between this period. It would have happened, I think that was after, like much after this incident, much after November 2022.
Okay, so
It,
the incident with the 2 people standing in front of you was in November of 2022.
no, it was after that. It most I just
Okay,
if
so it
I
was sometime
I
after November of 2022.
yes, because I did not list it.
Okay. Okay, those are all my questions.
All right, Ms. Hurd, you have any, we would normally call it redirect. So based on that questioning, anything that you think you need to clarify? You don't have to, obviously, but
No, I said everything that I wanted to. I just wanted this to stop. It was going on for a long time, and you know, I it was going on before I was, needed to depend on a wheelchair to get around, and I never had anything that I could use because the incidents are very subtle, but there's very many of them, and I believe the drivers make it look like that, and they quiet down. They seem to quiet down, and then they start up again when they think it's whatever. When they think enough time has passed, and then they start up again. And I don't want that happening again because, like I said, I have not had any problems at all. It's been very peaceful since with the bus system since I submitted this complaint, and I just feel that that's how it should have been from the beginning. I don't if drivers should not be making things personal and taking their frustrations out on, you know, on ride passengers.
all right. And then you have no other witnesses, correct?
No.
All right, so you're closing your case.
Yeah, yes, I'm dead. I don't have anything else.
All right, and then Attorney Wood as a
So
respondent.
I'm gonna ask that this case be dismissed at this point. Ms. Hare has not stated that she was that any of these acts were due to her gender, race, or disability, which we don't know anything. There was no testimony as far as what that was. She also was asked 2 times what she thought it was related to, and she said that's something a complaint filed in 2017, which we know nothing about, and also because she suspects that her stalkers have something to do with that. So none of those things would be protected under the Wisconsin Public Amusement Law.
All right. Well, Mr. I'll give you a chance to respond. Do you want to respond? She's saying that you have not proven the disability as alleged under this law.
Well, I use an electric wheelchair to get around. I should not, by law, I don't have to disclose my disability to someone and to anyone, and they that incident that happened before 2017, they said I cannot use it. So I just referenced that. That was related to this pattern of abuse, and mistreatment of me is, preventing, like I said, their mistreatment of me is preventing me from affording being afforded full and equal access to transportation services. And no one, especially someone who's dealing with health issues, should need to, deal with people like that and be treated that way. Um, that, that, and that shows that most of these drivers were black drivers too, and this male driver, I believe, based because of what he's, the way he treats me and what the things that he says is sexist and insensitive in that way. Um and especially like when you know he's telling other riders not to get off, not to get out of the way so that I can secure my wheelchair is, discrimination. And I haven't had, like I said, I haven't had any problems with them. In the future, if I do, I'll submit another complaint. I shouldn't need to be dealing with this. It's, it cost me a lot of time and kept me sick from, dreading to use the bus every day when I have to go somewhere. That's my main source of
All right.
transportation.
So now you're getting back into argument and not addressing the specific motion. So um, the motion is that you haven't met your burden. That you had to show that you were denied full and equal enjoyment because of your disability, because of your race, because of your sex. Um, you did. I did repeatedly ask you at different points, why you think they treated you this way, and you said it was because of that 2017 complaint against a black driver. I am going to go ahead and deny the motion. There's probably enough there for some basis of race discrimination. I'm not saying that you're winning, Ms. Herr. I'm just saying that for purposes of granting a motion to dismiss, I'm going to deny it. But I fully understand why it was raised.
Yes, because I just feel that the Metro didn't care to address these things. That's disability is supposed to be a very protected class in public places. And I have never experienced this before. When I was not in a wheelchair, using the bus was not a problem. And if I encountered someone that was disabled, I
I'm
would
going to object to
go
this because we've
direct
already
them.
closed. The decision has already been made and we've closed the case. So
Yeah, so we're gonna move on, Miss Herr. Um, I understand in your mind, you had a disability, there was some adverse action, therefore there's discrimination because of disability, but you would typically have to show that the adverse action was because of the disability. And I'm not sure that you proved that, but regardless, I'm denying the motion to dismiss, since there's presumably enough there for at least some of your claims. Attorney Wood is the respondent presenting evidence.
yes.
Nope, we have another. Is this a witness or is this?
Yep.
Is he going to be your first witness?
This is our first witness. Yes.
Do we need a
Yep.
break or are we prepared to go into the testimony?
We are prepared to go move ahead.
All right. And then is it Philip Gatke? Is that how you say it?
Yep, that's correct.
All right. If you can please raise your right hand. As you grab your mug. Thank you. Do you solemnly swear or affirm under penalty of perjury that the testimony you're about to give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Okay, you can lower your hand. Go ahead and have you spell your last name for the record, please.
Gadke.
All right, Attorney Wood is going to ask you some questions.
Hey, Mr. Gagke, can you tell me where you currently work?
City of Madison Metro Transit.
And what type of services does Madison Metro Transit offer?
Public transportation, both fixed route and paratransit service.
And what is the difference between transit and paratransit services?
Fixed route is scheduled routes. Typically what you'd see is our larger vehicles out running on a schedule on a route. Paratransit service is complementary to fixed route for people with disabilities. It's more of a door-to-door service. It operates on not so much a fixed schedule, but based on what the ride demand is. So people are able to call and schedule rides from one place to another, similar to what a taxi would be.
And what other, I guess, so paratransit is that offered to everyone, or who is that offered to?
Paratransit is available to those who are eligible to use it. So you have to go through an application process, but it is part of public transportation. It just is there's an eligibility process in order to utilize the service.
Okay. And in general, what service accommodations, if any, does Metro Transit offer to individuals with disabilities?
With in regard to fixed route or paratransit, or just generally speaking?
Just generally speaking, for both services.
So all of our vehicles are ADA compliant, so they have accessibility features on them. Bus stops are getting to be more and more ADA compliant, so people with disabilities can use fixed route. Our paratransit service meets all of the ADA regulations as far as ride scheduling, no trip purpose restrictions. Again, the vehicles themselves are in compliance. So we have to maintain those standards in order to operate legally.
And what is your position with Metro Transit?
I'm an operations manager.
And how long have you been an operations manager?
2014 with a job title change in the middle, but for the most part, 2014.
And what are your responsibilities?
It's kind of variable. I do oversee our paratransit unit. We have 2 employees in there that work directly in paratransit. Otherwise, primarily, I investigate a lot of safety related incidents that may occur, crashes and things of that nature. I work with our employees a lot regarding incidents that may occur, resolving those issues. Employee, or I should say customer feedback and complaints that come in. I do some investigation depending on what the issue may be. I do take a lot of our ADA related complaints. You never know where you'll find me.
And what, other than taking the ADA complaints, what if any other responsibilities do you have regarding disability accommodations?
I do make determinations on reasonable modification requests. I look into, maybe more in depth. Let's say there's a ADA, not necessarily a complaint, but a request for a bus stop improvement. I'll work with our planning department to work to get bus stops improved if needed. They have a pretty good schedule with bus stop improvements, so most of the time it's pretty easy to get something bumped up if I need it bumped up, if there's some demand. So resolving issues with drivers that may not be that may get a complaint, and making sure that they're aware of what the rules are, and that they're in compliance as well with ADA regulations. So it's kind of across the board.
Does Metro Transit, in addition to ADA regulations, are there DOT regulations and rules that pertain to individuals with disabilities?
State DOT or federal?
Either.
I'm not, I mean, the Federal Department of Transportation ADA regulations is what we follow. So I'm not aware of, specific anything outside of the ADA regarding passengers with disabilities. But
Okay,
it is,
so it's specific requirements under the ADA specific to like transportation operations like Metro Transit.
correct. It's very much the same thing you'd find with any transportation mode, airlines, trains, buses. They all follow the same regulations.
When a request for an accommodation comes in, does Metro Transit grant all of those accommodation requests?
We do. We will evaluate what the request is, and if we can accommodate, we will. If we can't, it's based on that evaluation. If we can't, we will deny it.
And so I guess, do you know in what instances you would deny an accommodation?
I'm going to look at this letter here just so I remind myself. When we do the
Well, we can just do that. Let's turn to exhibit Respondents Exhibit 3.
Yes.
Have you seen that document before?
Yes.
What is that?
It is a reasonable modification request letter that I had written.
Okay, and does that refresh your memory as far as when Metro Transit may deny requested accommodation?
Yes, I don't have them very often, so I need to reference this.
Is this related to the accommodation? Because I thought it was already, I said I had compromised.
Well, they're entitled to ask questions. Are you saying that it's an objection, I guess, based on relevance? So I guess Attorney Wood.
Just because we had already discussed it, I don't, okay. Go ahead.
All right. Attorney Wood, I'm treating it as an objection based on relevance. Do you want to respond?
Well, since we entered the complaint in the record as far as what Ms. Hare's arguments were, we're gonna, first of all, this is just providing background information about what Metro Transit does for accommodations and disabled individuals, but also we're gonna address each of the issues raised in the complaint since that was incorporated as part of her testimony.
Yeah, I will allow the testimony. I mean, it sounds like, Ms. Hare, you're trying to state that these are no longer issues, but
Yes.
it is part of the complaint. I'll allow them
Okay.
to address it. Continue, Attorney Wood.
So, Mr. Gagey, what situations would Metro Transit deny an accommodation request?
We would
Or you can
assess
just
the,
reference like a part of the letter if that works.
yeah, that's we would assess the request, and basically there's four areas that we look at, and that would be would the request alter the services, programs, or activities? Would granting the request create a direct threat to health, safety of others? Would the individual still be able to use the service without the modification? And would granting the request create undue financial and administrative burden on the agency? So those are the areas we look at when we're making determinations as part of a reasonable modification request.
Okay. And are employees trained on the ADA or ADA accommodations?
As far as like our frontline employees, bus drivers,
Correct.
yes, they're not as trained on modifications. That wouldn't necessarily be something that they would get involved in, but they are trained to proficiency to meet all operational ADA regulations and guidance.
Okay. At some point in 2022, do you recall receiving an accommodation request from the complainant, Ms. Hare?
Yes.
If you turn to Exhibit 2, have you seen that document before?
Yes, R2, that is an email to me.
And what was Ms. Hare requesting in this email?
To face rear facing in the securement area on fixed route buses, or buses, I should say, in general.
And after receiving this request, what did you do?
We evaluated the request, and there's some parts there where we may reach out to other agencies. We may reach out to the FTA with the Federal Transit Administration to find out if anyone else has had this request before. If so, what did they do? Also reached out to our wheelchair securement equipment vendor, the company that manufactures the securement equipment, about rear facing in 4-point securement systems. And that helps aid our determination when it comes to whether or not we can modify or accommodate the modification.
And what did you learn after meeting with the securement specialist and the legal requirements? What did you learn from that?
I couldn't find another agency that had the request, but I did get in contact with our vendor, which is Q Straint, and asked about rear facing, and they said that the system was not designed for rear facing, as our I should say our currently the securement systems we currently utilize are not designed for rear facing when it comes to the 4-point securement. And I also found ADA regulations regarding forward and rear facing when it comes to what is required to have rear facing. And our vehicles did not meet that standard.
And what is required?
Basically a barrier, a board in the back that the device would go up against in the event of a front collision, that would prevent the person from moving forward any further forward. So it needs to have a padded barrier in order to have rear facing.
And then if you turn to Respondents Exhibit 3, you mentioned that you drafted this letter in response to Ms. Hare's request. Is that accurate?
Correct.
And what did you inform her within this letter?
Basically that we could not accommodate rear facing with the current equipment that we have at the time.
Regardless of this decision, was there any determination made as far as whether she could fully use Metro services?
It was determined that yes, the services are still accessible for their intended purposes.
After this request, did you receive any further requests from Ms. Hare?
No.
If you turn to
Oh.
exhibit,
Regarding the rear facing, no.
okay. Can you turn to Respondents Exhibit 4? In the second page of that exhibit? Have you seen that before?
Yes.
And what is that?
That's an email from me about another request with to an address for paratransit service to a parcel that is outside of our service area.
Okay. So the initial email you had received presumably from Ms. Hare requesting a certain paratransit service, is that correct?
Yes, it was service to address that we don't serve
Okay.
or unable to serve.
Okay. When you received this email, what, if anything, did you do?
I verified that the parcel was indeed outside of our service area. We have a map that we utilize, and I basically double checked it with our planning unit, who has access to all the parcel information to make sure that the address indeed was in a Town of Middleton parcel.
Okay.
And the Lakewood Shopping Center, yes, in the village of Maple Bluff.
And those are outside of Metro service jurisdiction?
They are.
Does Metro Transit drop any passengers outside of its service jurisdiction?
We do not.
Did you inform Ms. Hare of this?
Yes.
To your knowledge, has Metro Transit ever granted people the accommodation of dropping outside of the service jurisdiction?
It has been discussed, but no, we've never made any accommodation or modification to the jurisdictional rules.
And then I'm sorry to do this, but I just want to backtrack. Going back to Respondents Exhibit 3, which is the letter that you drafted in response to the rear-facing wheelchair. I noticed that this letter is signed by Crystal Martin. Who is Crystal Martin?
Sorry, I should have clarified that a little bit. Crystal was the former service manager, transit chief operating officer. There was some structural changes. Crystal was retiring with basically 1 foot out the door. So this was my first modification request that I worked through. So I drafted the letter. Crystal signed it because she was still in the position of chief operating officer. So we worked together on this modification.
Okay. Following these accommodation requests, Ms. Hare filed some complaints about Metro's drivers. Can you walk me through, I guess, the driver in general, the driver complaint process, how those complaints are received and what is done?
So there are a couple of different avenues a person can take to file a complaint or feedback. They can call our call center and talk to a person, send an email. There's also an online form you can fill out to describe your complaint, and it goes into a database. We have operations supervisors who work on feedback on a daily basis. So they'll grab the pending feedbacks that are sent in from people or entered by our customer service reps and start reviewing and investigating the complaint. Most of the time, it's the oldest complaints get worked on first. ADA related complaints will flag and prioritize. And a lot of the time, depending on what the complaint is, the operations supervisor will let me know that they have this and they're working on it, and I'll just monitor what's going on to make sure they resolve properly with the bus operator.
Were you involved in monitoring any of Ms. Hare's complaints?
Yes.
Do you recall if those did get resolved?
Yes, they did.
Okay. Do you recall if any of those complaints were substantiated as being related to her race, gender, or disability?
I do not recall. I'd have to go back and review specific complaints.
Okay.
See what the findings were.
Okay. You mean like the complaint feedback form?
Correct.
Okay. Can you turn to Exhibit 7? You've seen these documents before? You can take a minute to look at them because it's a couple pages.
Yes, it is a feedback report from our incident or from our feedback database.
And looking at those feedback reports and the notes from the investigator, well, can you review those? Take a minute to review the conclusions there and then let me know when you're ready.
You just scroll down to the next page there.